Hello, and welcome to the True Crime Lounge. This is where we talk murder and other forms of crime. I do have a YouTube channel that you can go and watch. I also have a Patreon and merch shop that you can check out as well. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for updates. Now, since I said all that, why don't I dive into today's episode, shall we? For the last episode of our mini-series, I'm going to do something a little bit different than I had planned on. Today I'm going to be talking about the case of Priscilla Joyce Ford, who is a mass murderer with at least eight known victims on November 27, 1980. And her characteristics is that she tells people that the people that she hit was they were just pigs, animals let out in the wild. And she would also testify that she was the incarnation of Jesus Christ and incapable of sin. Sounds crazy, I know. But, hello? Okay. Her victimology includes 3 white females and 3 white males. Her methodology was driving a car into a crowded Reno sidewalk, April 29, 1982, and she was sentenced to death. On January 29, 2005, she died in prison. So, Priscilla Ford. She was born February 10, 1929, and she was sentenced to death for killing 6 people, injuring 23, while driving down Reno sidewalk Thanksgiving Day in 1980. She launched a number of appeals against her death sentence. They all failed, of course. And she was a heavy smoker and died at the age of 75 from emphysema. One thing I found interesting is that she was the only woman on Nevada death row before her death. In 1995, she lost a Supreme Court bid and got her case eased to life without parole on the grounds she didn't get a fair trial. Yeah. Her lawyer had argued there was all sorts of constitutional problems, caused mainly by inadequate legal counsel during her 6-month trial. But prosecutors had argued there was no basis for an appeal, and given Ford's mental state, it was unlikely she would be executed anyway. Expert medical witnesses said Ford was suffering from a variety of mental illness, but prosecutors maintained she knew the difference between right and wrong. She was a Michigan native with an IQ of 140. She was also a school teacher who had moved to Reno from Maine about 3 weeks before the rampage. She also told acquaintances that she went to Reno to look for her missing daughter, Winter Scott. Authorities had placed the girl in a foster home in 1973 after Ford was arrested for trespassing. Before the 1980 crime that became known as the Thanksgiving Day Massacre, Ford had said people of Reno will pay in death for taking her daughter. She also told a U.S. attorney in Maine in 1979 that she would run into pedestrians if he did not help get her daughter. They did not help get her daughter back. Yeah, I know. In 1982, she was sentenced to death at the conclusion of a nearly 6-month trial. At the time, she was the longest murder trial in Nevada history, and she showed no emotion when the verdict was read. Witnesses said Ford deliberately struck people while driving along the gambling strip on South Virginia Street. Now, I've never been to Nevada, so I have no clue. But anyway, I would love to go to Nevada one day. But back to the video episode. Sydney holiday strollers diving for cover. The black Lincoln twisted street signs, crushed newspapers, vending boxes, and knocked over a fire call box. The car was one the woman was on and administered nearly casinos reopened. The casinos would reopen again, and she would refer to her victims as beasts and pigs. This woman sounds crazy. Anyway, After her arrest, she told the police that the voice of Joan Kennedy, then the wife of Senator Edward Kennedy, DMAS, ordered her to kill. Oh, goodness. The prosecutor showed pictures of each of the 6 dead victims. And she replied yes. She replied yes, each time in a firm voice, appearing glum but unshaken by the photos. She told the jury that she had no shown remorse in private, but when asked if she cared about the 6 dead victims, she said, "How can I care? Is there anything I can do? Feeling good doesn't do anything for them." Like, that's just messed up right there. It really is. Like, anyway, where's my stress ball? Here we go. She said that she left Reno in 1973 in an odyssey aimed at regaining custody of her daughter. Her travels took her to Maine, Vermont, and Chicago, where she quit 2 jobs because she did not like black people. Ford was black. Yeah. So on appeal, her attorneys contended that she was insane at the time of the enslavings, and she did not appreciate the fact that the people were hitting were human beings. Appreciate that the people she was hitting was human beings. So, here's a little timeline. February 10th, 1929, Priscilla was born in Michigan. 1957, with only a high school education, she takes a job as a teacher in a one-room school near Dowagiac, Michigan. They were skeptical about her abilities and nervous because she was the first black teacher in the area, but they were soon singing her praises as a gifted, caring teacher. And she keeps the job for more than 7 years, earning her bachelor's degree in education in 1966. In 1970, friends and family report that her behavior had become increasingly bizarre. She reports seeing her dead husband across the street from her home in Buffalo, New York, and was talking about having the soul of Adam and Jesus Christ. In 1972, her son returns from the army and reports she is delusional and an alcoholic. In 1973, Ford, who now lives in Reno, voluntarily commits herself to a Nevada Mental Health Institute, where she is treated and released, with the diagnosis the passive-aggressive personality with hysterical episodes. In 1974, she was arrested for trespassing and is again sent to a mental health evaluation. With her daughter, Winter Scott, who was 11, was taken away by social workers and placed into Rittenberg Hall. Ford considers her daughter to be a kidnapping victim. Ford moves back to New York when she asks for the help of the Catholic Charities in Buffalo. A nun describes her as delusional. 1978, she is treated in the mental hospital in Blackfoot, Idaho. 1979, she is treated in the mental hospital in Buffalo, New York, and she is diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. In 1980, May 1980, she is now living in Maine, and Ford asked her attorney for help in getting her daughter back. She allegedly tells the lawyers that if she isn't helped, she will drive across the state and kill everybody she sees along the way. And ultimately, she did kill people. So, she gave warning. It's kind of like the whole Charles Manson, how he told people, look, keep me in here, because if you do, I'm going to kill again, right? Well, she kind of gave warning, like, hey, help me or I'm going to go do this, right? November 1980. She's en route to San Francisco when she stops in Reno to cash a check and decides to remain in the city. She gets a temporary job as a package wrapper at Macy's. November 27, 1980, she goes on a 5-block Thanksgiving Day rampage in her 1974 Lincoln, killing 6 people, injuring 23. And arrested at the scene, she later tells the jailer she did what she had to do. and that the people she hit were just pigs, animals led onto their wild place. She was indicted in December on 6 counts of murder, 23 counts of attempted murder. January 1981, judge orders that she receive mental health treatment and will be so that she will be competent to attend for trial. She pleads not guilty for reason of insanity in August 1981. And March 20th, 1982, a judge with 7 men, 5 women found guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to death March 29th. She said, "I would like to be left alone to die in peace. For the next 18 years, she will go through many appeals with the process that remains on death row in Ely, Nevada." The trial would not begin for a year. On January 29th, 1981, she was found incompetent to stand trial and sent to Lake Crossing for mental treatment. On April 29th, 1981, she was ordered to submit to treatment, including drug therapy. Finally, on August 4th, 1981, she was found competent to stand trial. The trial began November 12th, and it will last nearly 5 months, making it all the time the longest and most expensive in Reno history. There, she had little doubt to where Ford drove the murder car. And there were dozens upon dozens of witnesses in the act, right? So, the community heart poured out into an injured and killed. There was no lack of voices calling for blood or vengeance. All that missing was motive. One was a community could understand of several motives offered, and it seemed like each one was crazier than the last, or at least just as unfounded in reality. As details about her life became clearer, the primary issue in the murder trial was her ability to recognize the difference between right and wrong. So, the characters in the courtroom drama were almost cliches. At one side of the table, the community's voice of retribution, the DA Cal Dunlap, he declared early on that he wanted to see Ford in Nevada's gas chambers. At the other, public defender Lou Carnahan, the cannabis that was scounded by police, doctors, witnesses, and acts, eventually by Ford's family and acquaintances. She was charged with 6 counts of murder, 23 of the attempted murder. 7 people had died from her injuries suffered in the attack, but due to the issues involved in changing the murder indictment, she was only charged for 6. Her plea was also expected, but not guilty by reason of insanity. It was a desperation defense that rarely succeeds. Still, Rags would say that she had been crazy not to try the sanity defense. Years later, the Nevada Supreme Court would agree to the Rags. That voice was from Joan Kennedy. Yep, remember that, Joan Kennedy. And in 1978, she sued the leadership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints for $500,000. And she herself, she called herself America's only authorized divinity. And which would be funny if she had been deadly serious. That's the sad part right there. Her story evolved from the first moment after her crime. She claimed to psychiatrists that Reno child welfare officials had stolen her 11-year-old daughter, Winter Scott. 7 years before, she also committed to the murders to get the attention that she could get some help finding her daughter. It is true that officials had taken her daughter after Ford had been arrested for trespassing and assault, but they had been trying to contact the drifter to tell her that their daughter's whereabouts for years. Still, vengeance for the loss of her daughter was a motive most people could understand. The problem was that other testimonies shows that her daughter's location in Los Angeles with relatives for some time. Later, she claimed that she that the car has suffered some kind of mechanical malfunction. Yeah, because it's never your fault, right? Never. And it was seen as a person could be crazy for change stories to acknowledge earlier stories. Throughout the months leading up to her trial, and interspread of the trial were testimonies and medical witnesses were also Ford has said she was suffering from a variety of mental illness. Dunlap wasn't convinced, though, calling the insanity defense a sham, and this was the biggest dispute in the trial that boiled down to whether Ford knew, right or wrong, and killed those people in Virginia Street Thanksgiving Day 1980. At various times in the trial, Ford was ruled competent and incompetent to stand trial. To understand the charges against her, and the prosecution argued that the medication showed her competent, and the court agreed. Of it, it seemed that she was competent to stand trial. This was an issue, primarily because it was muddled in the fact that the person doesn't have the same to be competent to stand trial, and also Nevada's insanity standard, known as the McNaughton rule, doesn't say that competence to stand trial proves sanity or insanity at the moment the crime was committed. Once you get all the legals out, it seemed the doctors and the lawyers were the stars of this whole shebang. So, though, it was true that until Ford took the stand in her own defense, she was she was under she was up there for 5 days and claims that she was the spirit of Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, and Adam reincarnate. How a judge could keep a straight face, or anybody could keep a straight face with all of this. The only person whose non-credibilized testimony seemed to have much of an impact was the testimony of Winter Scott. The daughter Ford claimed to have been abducted by child welfare officials. Scott told her of her youth with Ford. Among other things, Ford taught her daughter how to smoke marijuana at the age of 9, and at various times Ford was discussed that her belief in her own divinity had suggested plans to have Scott artificially inseminated in order to bring another Messiah through a virgin birth into the world. She talked about Jesus Christ along with Jesus Christ and about me being Jesus Christ. Yeah, at some point you gotta realize that this woman was insane. Right? At some point. But anyway, once she was arrested at the scene, she was almost immediately, for her mental competence became a matter of focus. They had even done like a change of venue. That was the thing. Like, alright, guys, was this lady insane? Or what? But that's just my opinion. Y'all have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving, and I will see y'all next time.